Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's NCCO webinar. My name is Dominic Diorio, and I am president of the National Collegiate Choral Organization. As the professional organization dedicated to serving choral conductors and educators at the tertiary level, we thank you for joining us for our second season of webinars, Collegiate Choral Programs in an Era of Upheaval. This series responds to the current crises in our world with actionable steps, pedagogical resources, and community engagement while providing the very best for our students. For more information about NCCO, please visit ncco-usa.org. I want to take a moment to talk about what today is for NCCO. It's historic because just a little bit ago, for about 3.5 hours, our national board convened for the very first time outside of one of our biennial conferences. And we met with Dr. Jamie Washington, to discuss how we can become a more racially inclusive organization. Our webinar today is a chance for you as members and stakeholders within NCCO's community to be involved in this historic beginning so that we can move forward together. You'll be hearing from 6 of the people of our national board who are present in our discussions today, and our vice president, who I'll introduce in just a moment. Before I do that, I wanted to also note that today is the birthday of one of our co-founders, the late William Denning, who would have been 78 today. So we would, as an organization, like to dedicate this panel discussion and our work as an organization that we've begun to Bill, in thanks for planting the seeds that have led us to this moment of growth and possibility. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our moderator for today's webinar, who will tell you more about the topic and the panel. Please welcome NCCO Vice President Elizabeth Swanson.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Dominic. And again, welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Becoming a More Racially Inclusive Organization, which is one beginning discussion of many that we intend to have. And this is taking form in the place of a town hall style meeting. So, as Dominic mentioned, this is a pivotal moment in time for our organization and for the choral field. We all, the world, witnessed the traumatic video and audio footage of the horrific murder of George Floyd by a white Minneapolis police officer less than 3 months ago. And the world has also witnessed other tragic and heartless murders of Black and brown lives. The murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and countless others. But this is not new. We are just seeing this, many of us are seeing this for the first time when this has been a reality for so many of our Black and brown brothers and sisters. This has been a 400-year-long reality. And the words in particular that have launched a greater consciousness are the words, "I can't breathe," and how we've been hearing them over and over again. So as part of NCCO, we cannot not do something. We cannot be complicit. We are committed to uncovering truths and evolving in a new direction that is intentionally inclusive, diverse, and equitable. But it goes beyond just saying that. We believe we're gonna fumble forward and try to have these difficult conversations together so that we can learn how to take action and what ways we can take action together that are sustainable. Today's beginning discussions, I just want to say we are definitely going to expand beyond the Black and white binary, but we felt that today in particular, being it's our first panel with this emotionally charged conversation, we have primarily Black voices on this panel. And we felt it was absolutely necessary to hear primarily from our Black colleague perspectives. For it is Black lives and Black culture that has been especially devalued. Yes, in our greater culture, we are seeing that, but also in choral music. And it has manifested on many levels. So we're starting this discussion today. It's a unique moment in time. We are coming together, not to blame or shame or defend ourselves. I personally, I'm here to listen. I want to become a better musician, educator, leader, I want to become a better steward of our culture as humans. And so this is a time to gain awareness, to have conversations so that we can begin the daily work that will be necessary for each of us to do to collaborate and create meaningful long-term changes for our field. So in many ways, this is an exciting moment because we get to meet intention with action. So today, some of us might feel uncomfortable or awkward in our own skin. I certainly do. But this is just a small sacrifice. It's not even a sacrifice because this is what's necessary to create change together, to move forward together, so that our Black and Brown brothers and sisters can breathe. So I'm just honored and grateful to witness this first discussion, and I want to go right into it and introduce our wonderful, esteemed panelists. We first have Dr. Rollo Dilworth, who is a Vice Dean, Professor of Choral Music Education at Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is a National Board Representative for NCCO's Eastern Region. We also have Dr. Kellori Dower, Dean of Fine and Performing Arts at Santa Ana College in Santa Ana, California. And she is the representative, a representative for our Western region. We have Dr. Marques L.A. Garrett, Assistant Professor of Music and Choral Activities, Conducting and Voice at the University of Lincoln, University of Nebraska in Lincoln. And he is a representative for NCCO's Central Region. We have Dr. Merrin Gill, Associate Professor of Music and Director of Choral Activities at Bethel University in St. Paul, Minnesota. And she is a representative for NCCO's Midwestern region. We have Dr. Gary Packwood, Associate Professor and Director of Choral Activities at Mississippi State University in Starkville, Mississippi. And he is representing our Southern region. And then we also have Dr. Jace Saplan, the Director of Choral Activities and Assistant Professor of Music at the University of Hawaii in Honolulu. And he will be sharing his perspective through the lens of his identity as a native Hawaiian, as well as through his expertise surrounding decolonizing methodologies, indigeneity in the classroom, and intersectionality within the choral practice. And he is a representative for the Western region for NCCO. So we're going to go right into it now. And I just want to thank all of you for being here, thank our panelists. And we're just going to start off on the bat with providing a historical context, ways in which racism has been part of the choral tradition since the choral tradition's birth in the United States, and how that Eurocentric founding has shaped our values and our traditions and legacies. And there is no better person than Dr. Dilworth to take us forward in this direction. So Dr. Dilworth, it's all you.
Thank you, Dr. Swanson. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here and to be a part of this panel discussion with such esteemed colleagues. And I do hope that out of the experiences that are shared, that we are able to create and develop some concrete action steps as we move forward. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the historical perspective. And over the past several weeks, actually, I've been sounding the alarm, so to speak, when it comes to helping others to understand the position of choral music in this country and how it began and where we are today, and how in some cases things have not changed, and how we need to continue to think very critically about where we want to go and who we want to be as a choral field, particularly at the tertiary level. So I've prepared my comments in written form, and hopefully they won't take more than about 2.5 or 3 minutes. I timed myself here. Choral music education in the United States was not designed to be inclusive and respective of cultural contributions by Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOC. With its beginnings in the 1830s, the choral music curriculum was intentionally and craftily constructed to uphold Western European styles and performance practices as the gold standard of what it means to be musically learned and literate, while at the same time marginalizing, minimizing, distorting and disparaging BIPOC customs and traditions. From the Star-Spangled Banner, to the minstrel songs of Stephen Foster, to the manufactured, appropriated, and racist Native American and Chinese folk songs, all of which are documented in the early K-12 choral music books. The choral music field, then and now, perpetuates a Western European lens through which we view how the art form is studied, how it is performed, and how it is evaluated. The Harvard Dictionary of Music, the 1986 edition and the most recent one in 2003, provides a definition of choral music that concludes as follows. Some composers have made radical innovations, at times through the influence of folk material, as in the percussive chanting invented by Stravinsky in Les Noces, later adopted by Orff, or through avant-garde choral techniques such as shouting, whispering, tone clusters, and glissandos, as in Christoph Penderecki's St. Luke Passion. There are at least 3 major issues with this definition, which someone in our field needs to rewrite. Number 1, the full definition makes no mention of the vast array of choral music that has come from communities of color. Number 2, the contributions to choral music that are rooted in cultures of color in this definition have been appropriated by and attributed to European composers. Number 3, this definition continues to reinforce a Western European standard by which all non-Western musics are evaluated and categorized. Such a paradigm opens the door for the othering of non-Western music traditions, as well as the othering of singers of non-European descent. The choral field, particularly at the tertiary level, continues to uphold repertoire and a vocal sound born out of the Western classical tradition as the benchmarks by which we measure a choir's artistry, eligibility for conference performance, and worthiness of commendation, merit, or reward. In sometimes very subtle and unintentional ways, and at other times in very blatant and intentional ways, the choral field and its stakeholders have been complacent, complicit, ignorant, or even resistant when it comes to advocating for an attitude that respectfully values music by BIPOC in the same ways we value music of Western classical traditions. We must address the racism and be intentionally anti-racist if we are to make the choral field a fair and just community for artists, scholars, and practitioners, and also to make choral music education a relevant and meaningful experience for all singers.
Thank you so much for providing that awakened context for all of our listeners. And certainly racism is manifesting as a result of that today in choral programs. And so we're going to uncover some of that.